This show is part of the Pro-Democracy Podcast Coalition. In a functioning democracy, representatives should be elected by the voters. Well, that almost didn't happen in 2020. In some places, it came down to just a few brave election administrators who stood up to authoritarians and refused to fudge the numbers. And now extremists are working to intimidate and replace nonpartisan election workers with yes men who might reject election results. And only we, the people, can stop them. We've partnered with the grassroots pro-democracy organization Represent Us to give you the tools you need to protect free and fair elections. Learn more and get involved. Visit represent.us/pod to learn more. That's represent.us/pod.
Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. It is Tuesday, May 24th, 2022, and I'm J.R. Stays. Across the table from me is
Shianne Serini.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you, too.
It's becoming a regular thing here. It's nice to see you get from behind the producer wall.
Yes, I know. It just so happened to work out today.
So we've got some news to cover.
We do.
Let's just get right into it, because this is kind of semi-fresh off the presses. This is in the Michigan gubernatorial race. That's for governor. The Republican primary is, I saw the word upheaval. I think it's quite a bit turned around. But Craig Mauger of the Detroit News reports that both Perry Johnson and former Detroit Police Chief James Craig have insufficient petition signatures to make the Republican primary ballot. James Craig's campaign turned in more than 11,000 invalid signatures, including 9,879 from so-called fraudulent petition circulators. I believe, so that puts him underneath the threshold, and I believe that we may have more listeners to this podcast than James Craig has signatures.
Yeah, I mean, we had already talked about this a couple weeks ago.
A little bit, yeah. We kind of previewed this could be a thing. And to be clear, the Board of Canvassers still needs to do something on Thursday. 3 of 4 would have to kind of overrule the staff recommendation, but it looks like they're not making the ballot.
How unorganized of a campaign do you have to get this many signatures that are not valid?
Well, so much for that groundswell of that grassroots support everyone kept talking about.
Oh, you mean like the grassroots non-support of him making his announcement that he's running for governor on Belle Isle and then all the protesters showing up?
That was another indicator. Like, we've just had a number of indicators, and no one wants to talk about this, and I know no one will talk about this, but as a city resident, I'm kind of concerned what other numbers got screwed up. He was our police chief for a really long time, and I know no one wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole, and there seems to be a bipartisan quietness on this.
Yeah.
But I can't help but be a little bit concerned about the disorganization of our former police chief.
Yeah, I mean, oof.
Now, the rising star in this is someone who is no stranger to the media. Tudor Dixon got the endorsement of the DeVos family, which is a big deal in Republican circles.
It is, lots of money.
Yep. And if you don't know, she's got experience in the steel business, and she also believes that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So she's got that kind of semi-authoritarian thing going on.
Say no more, know what I mean? Nudge, nudge.
I'm afraid I don't quite follow you.
Follow me. That's good. A nod's as good as a wink to a blind bat.
I don't think a lot of these people really believe that the election was stolen. I think it's an in-group signifier that we all are willing to say this quote-unquote big lie so we can all tell each other that we're with the in-group. But when you're screwing with democracy, that's a problem. And I'm really all about debating ideas, all those other things. But this has been litigated 50 ways from Sunday.
Across the country.
Right. This isn't about a liberal or conservative position. It's about facts. But I also know that voters are tired of this. I mean, to be honest, a lot of our listeners who aren't political are going, we're talking about this now. It's super early, but we're coming up on the Mackinac Policy Conference. This is an election year. These are the kind of things that are out there. And it's clear to me that the Republican Party is the party of Trump. And I know that even from my Republican friends who used to be Republican, a number of them are home. They're not going to be Democrats, but they don't have a place to be right now.
From where I'm sitting, the Craig campaign just seemed like a clown show. So maybe.
And you don't even like clowns.
I hate clowns, you guys, except for Blinky and my cousin who was Colors the Clown, but she has retired.
Is that because you knew them? That you knew that they weren't like
Yes.
demon spawn?
Yes, because I knew who they were behind the makeup.
The city of Detroit is getting 4 electric buses. They're by a company called Proterra. This is an interesting one because the city of Detroit burns through buses like crazy. Like, you just put tons of miles on them. It's a rough thing. Like, it's just a rough go. There's a lack of mechanics right now. There's a lack of bus drivers. That's impacting service. But these were unveiled on Monday at the Rosa Parks Transit Center. I did not go, but I've ridden electric buses before. It's a whole different game.
What's different about electric buses to those that are gas powered?
For the rider, it's going to be all about noise and smoothness.
Oh,
Because quiet.
yeah.
Like,
that's true.
so you've ridden in the Volt.
Yes.
Notice how quiet it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and we used to have a Prius, so same kind of thing. It was pretty quiet.
So that's a big thing when you're thinking about a big noisy bus and what you're used to with it. Another thing that's going to be important is if this works, and this is apparently a sort of trial to see how they work. They're going to be based out of the Shoemaker Terminal on the east side. They're a lot simpler to maintain. Electric vehicles just have less parts. And if this is something where things are more swappable, you could have a situation where you don't need as many mechanics, or you can get things into service a lot more, because that's a real issue that the Detroit Department of Transportation has had.
I mean, I'm looking forward to trying them out.
Well, east side.
Yeah. Our old stomping grounds.
Now, this is a national story, but I want to talk about it because this is Detroit. This is the motor city, right? Cars are a big part of what we do, even with like diversification, everything else. Cars are still like at the heart of stuff. And the average age of a car on the road is now 12.2 years, according to new data from S&P Global Mobility. This is the 3rd straight year that number has increased. There's a variety of reasons for this. New supply is constrained. Used cars are more expensive. I'm somebody who rarely drives new. I mean, some people do, but it makes me think, what was your first car?
Oh, my first car was a 1978 Pontiac Grand Lamaze.
Ooh.
It was like baby powder blue. It was a 4-door. The back windows were the only year that Pontiac did it where they didn't actually roll down in the back. There was only like a vent window. So like my friends would get in the car and they'd be like, how do I roll down the window? And this was before, obviously, 78. So there was no power windows. We had to crank our windows down and they were like, how can you roll down the windows? And I was like,
You outsmarted them.
You're like in the back of a police car. What was your first car, Jer?
1989 Plymouth Acclaim, affectionately known as the Corpse because it died every Thursday.
What?
It's like a glorified K car.
Yeah.
You know, rest its soul. I mean, I do love me a good old vehicle.
I do think that cars back in the day did last a lot longer.
Also from a safety perspective, like, so those bodies lasted a long time, but they also didn't crumple in accidents.
No, they didn't. I will say I had a very interesting conversation with my 7-year-old tonight about what airbags were.
Really?
Yes. And so I pointed them out in our Buick and I pointed out to each and every one of them. And I told him, kind of what an airbag does. So he asked if you go inside the bag. And I said, no.
That would be funny.
So anyway, I digress.
What was your first car? dailydetroit@gmail.com. So this is a bit of local hotel news that I want to share because, this isn't the biggest property, but it's one of the signature properties in the city of Detroit and in Midtown. The Inn on Ferry Street, according to Cranes Detroit, is going to reopen with new owners. Midtown Detroit leader Sue Mosey told the publication that she hopes the deal goes through in the next 30 days. Now, I wasn't aware, Shy, that the Detroit Institute of Arts was part of the property deal with this.
I really wasn't either. And I was surprised by it, but it also makes a lot of sense since they are literally right there.
Now, there's no official word on the buyer or the purchase price, but the reporting points to a Lifehouse Hotels. So they focus on that kind of like boutique thing. I mean, to me, as I said, although it's not the most rooms, I think it's something where and I've stayed there before for a staycation, and I helped plan a friend's wedding that was there. It's among the most beautiful properties in the city.
I mean, I haven't actually stayed there, but I've been there like on Noel night when they open it up and it's all festive and it's beautiful. My friend has played music there on Noel night, and I absolutely love that property. So I was really sad when they announced that they were closing because I never actually got to stay there. So maybe now I will have a chance. Hey, people who are buying the Inn on Ferry Street, if you would love for us to check it out and stay there, I'd gladly do that.
Fun fact, I have an end chair, like an extra chair, and that fridge sitting in the studio, it's from the garage sale. I didn't know that they were closing, but I went to the garage sale, and that was in the room right there on the side over there, about 4 feet from the table.
Nice.
Little bits of history. There's like a Hudson's couch and a random fridge that you would have no idea came from such a historic place. Now, Eastern Market's Fairway Packing is opening a retail store. And I'm covering this one because, one, new retail stores, always interesting. This one will be on the east side, Grosse Pointes Woods, Mac, between north of Vernier and south of 8 Mile, which can only happen for a very short time.
Yes, it's a very little
triangle there, but it is in fact possible, and that's where it'll be. As I said, 1,300 square feet. Fairway started in 1989. They're a brand that, if you've been around the restaurant industry or whatever, if you've eaten out at an independent restaurant, there's a good chance you've had Fairway Packing stuff. They've been around for a very long time, based in Eastern Market. I think it's an interesting choice to open up their first retail spot. Now, they had gotten into online stuff during the pandemic. I think it's an interesting choice to choose Grosse Pointes to do this, but also I think makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I'm wondering if maybe one of the reasons why they are opening in Grosse Pointes is because so many of their customers who are doing the online ordering are on the east side.
I've learned with this show, we end up having themes for a few weeks. And one of the themes is population density. And the Grosse Pointes are among the most population dense in this entire region. You might not think it because it's mostly single family homes and such, but it is. And so if you want a dense base of customers, it also has a little bit of pocket, and it's north enough that you could easily get there from St. Clair Shores or something like that. I mean, when you're that far north in the woods, you're close to the border.
Right. Well, and I mean, I know I have friends in St. Clair Shores, and they are in Grosse Pointes like basically every day because they're literally right there.
Well, I'm always up for new like meat options. I'm not sure I don't know if I would make the trip specifically, but I was out there. I'd definitely give it a shot.
I would. I also want to point out that Farm Field Table used to have a location, I want to say in the park.
Yeah, it was in the park there. Yeah, right near
right on
the
Kercheval.
brewery.
Yeah, on Kercheval. And they recently just closed. So, I mean, this opens up a bit of the market on like
and maybe and I wonder what the prices are going to be, because Fairway's going to be able to bring a sense of scale to this, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, also, if you haven't eaten, or if you didn't know that you were eating Fairway meat at a restaurant, I know you've seen their trucks. They are literally everywhere around Metro Detroit.
Yeah, you can't miss them.
Nope.
What do they have? The big old horn on them?
Yeah, it's like the black truck with the gold horn. So gold and red, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. I hope, though, with the expansion of retail and like those kind of options in Eastern Market, it would really be cool, even if they did like a little storefront or something. That would be interesting to do.
I mean, I think that they would be missing out on the walkability and everything and the accessibility, because I mean, literally it's right there. I just want to point out, I was scrolling Instagram the other day and I saw a picture of the magic bag and the old marquee, like the super old marquee before they brought out the new one with the neon, and it said something about the Woodward Dream Cruise, and I was like, why am I seeing this old picture? And then I looked and I read, and it said, risk podcast is coming back to Detroit. Well, back to Ferndale.
Oh, by a friend of the pod, Kevin Allison. He's been on a
Yes.
couple times. I'd love to have him on again.
I know. So they will be coming back to Ferndale July 30th. And they're currently looking for some story pitches. So if you have a story that deals with confrontation, something that's delicious, or intuition, those are the themes for the show. But if you have any other themes, you can always pitch them. Submissions close on June 4th. And I might be putting a pitch out myself. Who knows?
At risk-show.com.
That's right. And we will leave a link in the show notes.
So why do you love the Risk podcast so much?
So when I've been listening to Risk since they first started way back, like they've been a podcast for over 10 years now. And the reason I started listening was because my husband loved The State and Kevin Allison was on The State. And so we started listening to it together. And the reason I love it is because it's true stories that people dare to share. That's their tagline.
I feel like, and I enjoy The Moth. I don't mean this as a knock against The Moth, but like the Risk has got an edge to it.
The Risk definitely has an edge to it. I mean, sometimes it is not safe for work. Sometimes it is not safe for children to be around because there are a lot of adult themes. But it's one of those shows where people can come on and they can be brutally honest about situations that have happened to them in their lives. And it's no holds barred. You can talk about anything.
Well, and Kevin's such a masterful storyteller and someone who knows how to bring the stories out of people. Like he does workshops and things like that as well, right?
Yeah. Storystudio.com is the nonprofit that does like storytelling workshops and everything. And if you put in a pitch and they choose your story, they will work with you on like how to mold it into being like a story that you can tell on the stage.
Well, maybe we can get into it more with Kevin if he's got the time to come on. But he's been so generous with his time to us over the years. And, this is not paid. This is just, hey, go see Kevin's thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we are done for today. I hope you enjoyed today's show. A reminder, as always, that we are funded by our members at patreon.com/dailydetroit. Also, if a one-time thing is more your speed, buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. Wouldn't it be great if someone bought you a coffee, Shianne?
I would love a coffee.
It really does help the show and keeps us going. And then we're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like to reach more people than James Craig has signatures, dailydetroit@gmail.com. All right, with that, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Shianne Nusserini.
Make sure to take care of each other, that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.